What was your I've peaked moment? I worked at a grocery store when I was 18. I was stocking pasta sauces and knocked one off the shelf. Before it hit the ground I caught and balanced it with the top of my foot, then kicked it back up into my hand. Life has only gone downhill from there. My feet were chronically bruised when I worked at the grocery store. A little foot pain is way better than cleaning up a tomato sauce bomb. When David Beckham said thanks, accused Oak 04 inches to me one day after a few months I'd spent working at a job where I'd interact with him once or twice a week. As a lifelong Manchester United fan, growing up idolizing him, nothing will ever top being on a first name basis with him for about a year back in 2011. When my daughter was a few months old, I'd taken her to the grocery store one day. When we got home, I had her sitting in the crook of my left arm and 7-8 plastic grocery bags tangled around the fingers of my right hand. When I had just gotten into the kitchen, she threw her weight out just enough that she overbalanced and began to fall over the top of my arm and toward the hard linoleum floor. Time slowed to a crawl. I knew I'd never get my other hand untangled from all those bags in time, and the mass of the groceries was too high to move the hand and bags combo into place to catch her. So I did the only thing I could think of. I let her center of gravity get past my arm, then moved my forearm in a vertical circle so that she did a complete flip and ended up sitting on my arm again. She looked at me wide-eyed for a few seconds, then burst out crying. I put the groceries down and held her close while both our heart rates calmed down. If you'd ever told me I could do something like that, I'd not have believed it. Nearly 2 decades later, still my best save as a parent, though Heimlich-ing a cheese stick out of my son's throat comes a close second. Holy crap, this is awesome. I sang a super old 60s Korean song at a Korean spa for some karaoke event they were having and they broadcast it through the Korean radio. I'm still waiting for my pop girl group opportunity to come soon. I imagine this being much more honorable in Korean culture because karaoke is so popular. A few weeks ago I laughed heavily about something to my wife. I think it was tricking the cat into eating the food that was already in her dish. Stupid cat is super picky and won't eat food that was already in her dish since the last time she decided to stop eating. Anyways, I laughed heavily and then thunder and lightning flashed sounded outside. So that was it. It was perfectly timed. This is wonderfully mundane and hilarious. A picture of me floated around on some random Facebook page about a year and a half ago. 22k likes and lots of shares and comments from very thirsty old women. It was disturbing, but flattering. When I was 16, at a week-long stay-away summer camp, we played a game of Simon Says with 300 or so of us. First a large group knocked off by some easy wordplay. A handful or two met their demise to the old switcheroo. Numbers dwindled and good young men and women fell victim to the silver-tongued devil we all knew as Simone. Until there was only one. Yours truly. This clever Simon thought he had me. He asked the crowd that watched on, still licking their wounds, for a round of applause, congratulated me and asked me to return to my seat. I stood fast, unflinching. Simon had not made the request. A smirk came over his face, eyes burned red. He knew that he had met a true opponent. A few more times he made his attempt to convince me that this silly game was over. I knew better. When he said the words I had been waiting to hear my entire life. Simon Says, "You are Simon." I claimed myself winner and finished with Simon Says the game is over. To the cheers of campers and counselors alike. I impressed the prettiest girl at the camp and we dated till the end of summer. So that's what the end of Simon Says is supposed to be. In like 8th grade, I crossed over my friend in basketball who's significantly better than me and scored the game-winning layup. The game was super close and one-on-one. I'm still riding that high 7 years later. I remind him of it all the time. Last December I fell off some stairs and dislocated my knee. The kneecap was pointing sideways. It hurt like a bee, and I knew it would be months before I walked again because I had the same happen to my other knee years ago. In a panicked state I asked for a bottle of cold water, emptied it on my knee to numb it down, and put my bones back into place. Using my previous experience and an episode of Heroes I half remembered as my only reference. It hurt like a bee, but I managed to do it on my own. Later that night I got cleared by a doctor. My leg was swollen and I was going to be bedridden for several weeks, but my knee was perfectly in place. The first thing to go through my mind was I will never be this badass again. Don't try it at home, kids. Got triple nuke on Call of Duty MW3 in the map mission. Got the third one towards the end of the match and I was sweating for it. Never felt so satisfied with myself before or after. A food truck I worked on was on the Food Network. We took the truck on a road trip and had articles in travel magazines and newspapers written about us. It was a pretty cool experience. Haven't done anything nearly as cool since. Let me tell you something. I haven't even begun to peak. And when I do peak you'll know, because I'm gonna peak so hard that everyone in Philadelphia is gonna feel it. I was playing some form of Tetris on a PS4 with a friend and we were competing. I got into the zone somehow and kept clearing line after line until the game just ended. Apparently, I beat Tetris without even knowing it was possible. Haven't played since. I did the same thing with that tank game on the original Wii. Weirdest thing was that I was trying to record some TV show on a DVD burner I had at the time and I accidentally recorded the entire thing. Only time I ever even got close to beating the game and I accidentally recorded it. I still have the DVD somewhere. Either playing a show in college to a crowd of students wearing my face on tank tops with the AV guys projecting it onto the wall behind me, or getting out of a mugging because one of the dudes recognized me from the club as having amazing dance moves. Survived dodgeball against the grade 8s. I was the only one left on my team, and one guy left on the opposing team. He had one heck of an arm. Couldn't even stop to throw at him. Everybody is cheering him on and he just couldn't hit me. I ducked, jumped and rolled around. He tried to corner me and threw a shot straight for my face. I ducked and it bounced back. He went to catch it and fumbled. I won. Everybody was cheering me on by the end of it. I was champion of dodgeball in elementary school grade 7. The one time where the entire class rooted me. Felt great at the time. Definitely haven't peaked yet. I'm a late bloomer. The whole class rooted me. Holy crap, you did peak in grade 7. I was talking to some cute college-aged girls and they said, wow you're old when I mentioned my age. I'm only 26. Geez dang kids these days with their MySpace and their MP3 players. Second-hand 26-year-old pain is occurring at this very second. The moment I managed to confuse my teacher in year 6, age 11 UK, she told us in science that light could only travel in straight lines. So I inquired what about lightning? It reflects off the rain in straight lines, so technically it always travels straight. But miss, isn't lightning made of electricity not light? She didn't know what to say. My whole class looked at me like a hero. Yeah, I haven't done all that much with life since that. I remember reading when I was like 10 then light moves all Waverly though. It was a defining moment when I played my degree recital, from memory. At the time, it felt as though I'd achieved a goal that I'd been working towards since I was a kid taking first piano and organ lessons. Hopefully not an overall peak, but last October I pulled off my largest athletic achievement, a 200km hilly bike ride. My form was the best it's ever been. I weighed the same as I did in the 6th grade. My endurance was through the roof. Over the winter I got a bad back injury and could barely walk for weeks. I gained about 10-15 pounds over the winter. I trained for a race at the end of April and did okay, but I had a nasty crash a week later that again had me barely able to walk for weeks. Shredded the skin on my knees and elbows. I recovered a little in June but then I was moving and didn't get to ride much because I was traveling back and forth 200 miles every weekend. And I got a nasty respiratory infection in the middle of July that just cleared up about a week and a half ago. I think I'm still not quite as fit as when I peaked at the end of last year. I'm really hoping that in the next few months I can put all those issues behind me and get even stronger than I was last October. But it's tough mentally to cope with a year where I took 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Posted a friend's video onto Reddit on an old account and it ended up on the front page of the fairly large subreddit I posted on. Basically my peak is getting my friend 200k views. Can you post one of my videos on your old account? Playing pickup basketball against a then active now retired, and likely off-bound NFLWR. I sent him flying past me with a pump fake, then sank the jump shot right afterwards. I'm modestly above average at basketball but absolutely nothing special. That was such a badass moment I'll always carry with me. I was just really happy with my life for a year or two there. I had a great job, friends, city, lifestyle. I was happy for the first time ever. Playing Maria in my high school production of West Side Story. It was when I realized all of my talents were not easy jobs, and I knew I didn't have the wherewithal to handle them. I'm currently a leasing agent who barely sings or writes anymore and leaves work emotionally drained. I've readjusted my goals to climb this ladder and make enough money to go to as many musicals, writing conferences, and orchestral concerts as possible so that I can still enjoy music and writing, even peripherally. Performing Men in Black in the talent show when I was in 5th grade. These goofballs from my class began clapping to the beat during the breakdown, and the whole school joined in. Never had another moment like that. When I couldn't think of how to make my Diablo 3 monk build stronger and the best build online was 95% the same as my build. The build isn't the hard part, minutes maxing gear is. Dropped a bottle of DR pepper and caught it a second before it hit the ground without thinking. I felt like I was Spider-Man or something. Either in high school during the season my team won the state championship in track and field, or the day Bungie, creators of Halo, got beaten by me and some friends 50-18 in 4v4 Slayer. They mailed me 2 filet mignon steaks from Omaha. Socially, I was unanimously elected class president the first day of 4th grade. That year I had 2 boys get into a fight over who would be my square dance partner. I got straight A's. My mission project was really good, and I was always picked in the top 3 when we chose teams for various games at recess. Zach and Heidi were the other 2. They were truly athletic. I was just competitive as crap. I didn't know how good I had it. Mission project. A fellow Californian. I was a sexy, bearded, long-haired rock star in my early 20s. In my mind, at least. I toured around the US playing bass guitar and singing backup vocals for a rock band that was always well received whenever we played at the many various venues. Sometimes dives, sometimes legit arenas. Anyway, working towards the point, we were playing a bar in Austin. TX with lots of floor space and even a second level. However, their stage space was tiny. I mean, there were only 4 of us in the band, and I'm having to keep the headstock of my bass clear of the way of our singer. Super tight. So, in the middle of our set, during a particularly heavy breakdown, I decided to use the room a little. I hopped off the 6-inch stage and proceed to thrash and headbang with the crowd, all through the bridge breakdown. I'm splashing sweat and whipping everyone with hair. Crowd loves it. Then everything calms down for a few counts and goes back to the hook. Well, during those few counts, I take some steps backwards to get back on stage. It was time for some of those sweet, velvety backup vocals. I understepped the 6-inch riser and caught my heel, sending my upper body weight, including heavy bass guitar, while I back beyond my center of gravity. It was split second and slow motion at the same time. Somehow, I took one more backwards, stumbling step, and my foot landed on the leg of our drummer's cymbal stand. Reflex took over, and my leg just pushed my body back upright without hesitation. It was like a reverse Michael Jackson lean, without special shoes. Think of the old vampire movies when they go from laying down to standing up. Just like that. I seemingly defied gravity, then immediately step up to my mic and nailed my bass and vox, right on time. The people went ape crap. Alcohol-fueled enthusiasm is a force to be reckoned with. It was this moment that I was consumed by the notion that I am a purebred rock star, the one that legends have spoken about. He, whose rock and roll prowess cannot be stopped, even by unequivocal and universal forces, such as mere gravity, the golden, immaculate, end goal of all of humanity's past efforts in reproduction. Fully peaked. Nah, but for real, it felt great. Haven't been so hype about myself ever since. My leg did hurt for a couple days after, probably over-talked it a little. Tragically, the band eventually fizzled. Even more tragically, I'm in my 30s now. and I gotta go, cause my kid is calling me to put the shower head on the proper setting, since he's not tall enough yet. 6 AM caught the sunrise on top of Mount Battering Bully, since climbing up the mountain at 4 AM, and getting only 3 hours of sleep. My friend Mariah was in town from another country, and we planned to meet up downtown that week. Of course, she had to pick up a cheap disposable phone for all her American calling needs. The day before we were to meet, Mariah left a voicemail on my landline's answering machine. I know, telling me her new number. Being a lazy butthole, I listened to it once and wandered off. The next morning, I went back to the answering machine to get that number, and it wasn't there. My roommate, thinking I'd written down that number like a responsible person would, had deleted the messages. At this point I should clarify that this story takes place as a distant age of the past where we toiled in sorrow without smartphones. I couldn't email Mariah or Facebook her or reach out to her in whatever the heck else kind of internet way. She was already downtown and we hadn't made any concrete plans for where or when to meet. So I could either wait around for her to call me, or I stood by the phone and closed my eyes. I let my mind drift back to the day before, when I had listened to that message exactly once, and gradually, one by one, 10 digits floated into my head. I called that number and Mariah picked up. So it was a low stakes situation and I've always had a pretty good memory, but this was insane to me. And I am positive that my memory has gone downhill since then and I'd never be able to summon up a sequence of numbers I'd casually heard once the day before. So yeah, I peaked at the age of 20 trying to meet up with a friend. Was skiing and one of my skis fell off. I went down half the hill and came to a full hockey stop with one foot. Nobody noticed or believed me when I told them later. Deserves more upvotes. I was maybe 16 and standing in line at an ice cream restaurant type place, talking with my brother. There were 2 people in line ahead of me. A girl was making a parfait of some kind in the counter ahead of us when it tipped over and was rolling away. She was too short to grasp it and it was rolgy to the edge. I went to get it before it fell over, but misjudged the speed. As it was falling, I jumped at it, did the splits and caught it, hockey goalie style, 2 hands and a foot underneath it. Not a big deal to me, and nobody but my brother saw it. Didn't get better than that. Some backstory. I haven't masturbated for a week because I was at a summer camp and there was basically no privacy. Summer camp ended and I was driven home. I was so frisky that if a breeze tickled my penis I would moan. As soon as I got home I couldn't hold it back anymore. I rushed to my room, got on my computer and wanked as hard as I could. For some reason I could not see M for the life of me. 30 minutes passed. I finally felt that this stroke was the last. Right before I pumped out my baby gravy I realized there was a small spider hanging by a thread 3 feet above my penis. It was too late. I came the hardest anyone has ever came before. My splodge flew upward and covered the spider as it waded down and fell with my CM. I wasn't freaking out or anything. I was actually really impressed with myself. Everything's been downhill ever since. I left a Dr. Pepper bottle without a lid on the little desk thing in the back of my truck cab. Drove 610 miles that day and it never fell over. I was in an 18 speed. I got an A+ in a class in high school. It was Rosetta Stone. If you get something wrong there's nothing stopping you from redoing the question before it moves on. So you can keep attempting until the robots say you're right. In my 10th grade biology class, talking about the electron transport chain or something. Who here has been to the Hoover Dam? I was the only one to raise my hand. Well, UJ Tony, did you notice anything about it in particular? It was pretty damn big. That was the pinnacle of my obnoxious student comedy career. There was nowhere to go but down. Being on a Bahamas cruise formal in the middle of the semester with my fraternity brothers and my beautiful blonde girlfriend in another sorority. We were with a bunch of Pikes too, which is arguably one of the craziest fraternities specifically from my school, in the United States. We were all blacked out before boarding the ship. Some brothers didn't even make it on. Something out of a movie. I peaked the second night when I was with my girlfriend looking to the horizon at night on the deck of the ship and she looked me in the eyes and said, "I think I'm falling for you." Needless to say, I'm single now. I still have dreams of that night. Man, I miss that girl. I was bowling with some friends at a place that rented out lanes by time rather than by games. Time was running out when my turn came up. I had the ball ready and rolled as soon as the pins were reset. I got a strike, and immediately after the pins went down the lights went out and the game ended. I'll never bowl the lights out again. I once got a turkey in the 10th frame of a nothing game. That also happened to be the last for my group at closing time. So, I had everyone's attention. I believe I still lost that game. One time when I was younger my mum was total pee off at me, can't remember why, and I was brushing my teeth or washing my hands, I can't quite remember. However, I started backing away from her and fell backwards into the bath and accidentally done a head spin. Like one of those breakdancing head spins. I literally can't dance to save myself and I'll never be able to replicate it. Plus side, my mum couldn't get me in trouble for whatever it was I done, as her and my twin sister were laughing for ages at me while I was proper confused at what just happened. I once flicked a water bottle cap all the way down my hallway and into a garbage can near the entrance of my kitchen. This was surprising to me considering the fact that if I was on a boat in the Pacific I'd have trouble throwing a ball into the ocean. When I was maybe 11, my friend flicked a bottle cap at me from 5 feet away, flicked it so fast you couldn't see it. I threw out my left arm and caught it without breaking eye contact. This all happened in less than a second. Mine's simple. I'm not much of a competitive CS::GO player, but I once got an ace and that was it. I called it there and never touched the game again. Only 100 hours or so played compared to my mates. During New Year's 2017 I went to Vegas for 3 nights with my 2 best friends. We went to see DJ Snake on New Year's Eve and had a blast. Then the next night we went to a DJ Khaled pool party when all of a sudden T-Pain and Wiz Khalifa showed up and performed. We were all on cloud 9. The next day we drove to Los Angeles to watch our college football team play in the Rose Bowl and watched an incredible game. Immediately after we drove back to Vegas for one more night of fun where I played blackjack for the first time and won $300. That is a lot for me since I was playing $10 hands. In the cab ride to the airport with my friends I said to them I genuinely don't know if I can top this. That was my moment of revelation. I know I'll have many more great moments to come, but at this moment it seems difficult. Had my hands up in the air on a roller coaster and saw something out of the corner of my eye. I instinctively grabbed it as it was about to pass by. Turns out I had caught someone's keys from further up on the ride. I figure that's the luckiest thing that will ever happen to me. In middle school as a 6th grader there was some male 8th grader and a girl standing by the entrance to the male locker room. He was randomly whipping some of the 6th graders as they passed with a twirled up towel and laughing to the girl. I walked by acting like I wasn't paying attention. As he whipped the towel at me I shot out my left hand and caught it, pulled the towel out of his hands and threw it on the ground. I looked him straight in the eyes and he had the most dumbfounded look I've ever seen. Then I quickly hurried off into the locker room to avoid any actual confrontation. When I was in 6th grade I put $1 into a vending machine to get a Gatorade. About 6 fell out. I felt like a king that day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.